You probably saw this video and said, hey, this one's really short. Yeah, there's only 8 Bond actors. And that's me being generous with 2 of them. Welcome back to Jamesuary and our last tier list for this month. Tomorrow will be a traditional ranking for all 27 films. Of course, today we are doing the big head honcho himself, James Bond, and ranking all of the actors that have played him over the years. Before I get right into anything, of course, I want to go ahead and let you know that there is a tier list in the description, a link to it. Feel free to go ahead, rank all 8 of these actors. I'd love to know your list and to see what you come up with. So yeah, be sure to share that with me. Of course, we have our main 6 Bonds that everyone knows about: Connery, Moore, Lazenby, Dalton, Brosnan, and Craig. But we also have 2 of the unofficial Bonds from 2 of the movies in that weird little trilogy, both Barry Nelson and David Niven. When looking at the actual tiers, at the top S tier, I have iconic 00 status. These are the ones that are just the echelon of what you expect Bond to be. They have the humor down, they have the serious down, they have the charisma down, they have everything going for them in terms of their arcs, their storytelling, the way that they hold themselves, the way that they dress, the way that they present themselves, everything that the actor is doing to really make it feel like the version that you're supposed to love when it comes to Bond. Just below that, in our A tier, is License to Thrill. These are ones that just don't quite make it to that top tier. They're still really great. They're mostly just there as like the fun, entertaining ones, and they don't really get to that point to where it's like I'd watch them in anything. Just under that, we have Mission Accomplished. These are the Bonds that pretty much are serviceable. They do their mission for what they need to, and they never quite reach that iconic nature for me. They're still good, but they just do what they need to for the film, and then that's it. Faulty gadgets are the ones that just fall short. They never quite feel as good as they could be. They never quite get to that point to where it's like you want to like them, you think it's going great. And depending on the film that they're in, or what they're doing, or how it's played, or how it's written, could kind of set it back for me. At the bottom, we have Rogue Agent, whether the actor is just doing something I don't like, or the way it's written and the way it's performed is just not Bond at all, or even just down to the fact of how everything's going, I think could just be a turn off altogether. Well, with nothing left to say and with how short this video is, might as well get straight into ranking the actors themselves. And first up on the list is Barry Nelson himself from the 1954 Casino Royale. He is the first Bond, but he's also the worst. No one ever really includes him in any ranking. No one ever really remembers him. He did play Bond in a live action project. He was the first one to do it, but he's also American. It's not really so much all of that. It's mainly the fact that we don't really get to grow with him as a character or really see him as like this cool, awesome spy. He does get a few moments, a few lines. He has a cool look to him. He's doing all the things that he needs to for the role and the show that it's written for. I just wish there was something more to latch onto. I said this in my review, and I've said this in other ways. The guy that played Felix Leiter, who is British, feels like much more of what Bond is supposed to be than what Barry Nelson gives here, and I kind of wish that they had reversed it. Coming into the opposite of that with Daniel Craig, I'm gonna stick him up in License to Thrill. I can't deny Craig is just that good. He's a solid actor, he handles himself in the action, and he really knows when to really give in to those emotional beats. I think the reason why I don't put him into that iconic status is simply because he's a bit too sad and depressing. I feel like you could take a shot and get pretty drunk throughout all of his movies every time this version of Craig gets super drunk or does something where it's like, I'm so sad. He is able to have a few good one liners and a few little jokes here and there, but he's definitely more of the traditional modern take on Bond as like the depressed hero. And I think when it comes to even how great his movies are, sometimes I kind of just want a Bond that's more well rounded and not so sad. Now we have David Niven from Casino Royale 1967. Once again, the unofficial trilogy of Bond films. To be honest, I think he is actually very good. I really enjoy what he's going for in the role. It is more serious, but I think the way he plays everything is more straightforward, straight man style for the weird, wacky, insane comedy that the movie is going for. I don't know, there's always something about him that when I watch, it's like I could see this guy being more based on book Bond, which is what everyone told me Dalton does, and we'll get into that later. I don't know, I just kind of wish there was more that I could dive in deep with him, more that I could learn about him. And the fact that he just comes from a movie that's not good, I can't really put him any higher. I will say he does have more respect for the ladies than most other Bonds on this list, so I'll definitely give him that. Now we have George Lazenby, the model turn actor, the first Bond who was not Connery in the official series. He's going in iconic 00 status. Now wait, don't click off the video, okay? The movie that he's in for me is one of the best in the franchise, and the way that it's all played out and the way that it's all told is just perfect to me. Lazenby really leans into that Bond that has a little bit more emotion, a little bit more depth, a little bit more of a connection with the lady that he's with in the film, Tracy. He's actually able to handle himself very good with the action. The way everything looks and it's shot is perfectly great. And he has a bit of that charm and that charisma. For me, he was the Bond that really made me understood the character and why people loved him so much. Connery was a lot of fun, but I never really understood the appeal to Bond as a character other than just he's kind of cool. When I got to this film and I saw Lazenby in the role, it finally clicked with me why everyone liked him because he is just such a good heroic character who just gets his job done. I don't know if anyone's going to agree with me, but he definitely is 00 iconic status for me. Speaking of iconic 00 status, Pierce Brosnan goes right up there. Now, while some of his later movies have not been the best for me, and one in particular is the worst in the franchise, he is always an actor who gives it his all every time he's playing Bond, no matter the project. Pierce really is just one of those actors who's able to take in everything from all previous Bonds and make it his own. He has the action down straight and that emotional depth taken straight from Dalton's films that just carries straight over. But he also has that campy and that wittiness that Moore's going with, but yet he also gets that charm and that likability and that charisma from Connery. Similar to Lazenby, I think he's able to take that while also having the iconic look of the character and just push it to new heights. I don't know how, if they ever can do it, but I'd love to see him come back, do the role again in sort of like an older Bond who's on one last mission, or if even if he just comes back as a villain and he's the opposite of Bond in the newest film, I'm all for it. I'm all for just giving him a side role, bring him back as M. That would be awesome. I just want more Pierce Brosnan in this franchise, and I want a better outing for him to go out on than whatever Die Another Day was. Now we move on to Roger Moore, who has the biggest tenure of all of the Bonds, starring in, I think, about 7 films, which is just wild. Technically, Connery has that too, but one of them's unofficial, so hey. I think I'm going to put him up in License to Thrill. Maybe a bit ago I would have said Mission Accomplished, but I think there's just a bit more there that Roger does to really make his Bond kind of thrill you a bit. I think simply for the fact that he stuck around for so long and was Bond to so many people, I have to put him up there in that A tier. But for me, he never quite is able to get one of those stories that has that emotional arc and builds him out as a character. He gets some of the emotions, he gets some lines, he gets a bit of action, and overall it all works out in some of the films that he's in. But his biggest moment was that reveal in The Spy Who Loved Me, and that is kind of sad. He's doing everything great for his era of films to be the more campier ones. I think he definitely leans into it, and he's definitely able to bring you into the world of his Bond, and you very much enjoy it for what it's going for. He never once gave a single bad performance, and he always kept me engaged with all 7 films. So even when it was up and down, I got to give him that A tier. This is probably where y'all are going to hate me, but Connery, Sean Connery himself, goes in Mission Accomplished. Connery is great. Connery is iconic. He is fun. He is entertaining. I get why people love him so much. I just feel nothing from him. And I'm not saying about his action or his charm or his charisma or how he captured the audiences of the time. I'm saying the fact that his films are in a time where we just want Bond to look cool and do cool things and have cool women and not really be an actual character that develops into something. For me, I think that's what's really missing. Even his film From Russia with Love, which is, I think, the best of his films, never quite gets there for me to really love him. There are little moments here and there where you think there might actually be something to his Bond, but the movie is always cut back and they never actually dive into what's going on in his brain, what makes him tick as Bond. And if anyone was really missing a film with a good proper send out for his legacy, it definitely was Connery. Never Say Never Again is fun, and I know there are some people out there who will agree with that, but he deserved a little better when you really think about it. I will always give him his props. He's the first one to say Bond, James Bond. He looks awesome when he's driving that car and when he's smoking his cigarette. Whenever he takes down a bad guy, he just has that punctuation to him. So I definitely would enjoy watching him, but I just think that there are other Bonds who just give me a little something more to latch onto. And we're saving my favorite for last, but I'm not going to put him too high because I am going to be a little bit more serious and critical when I come to this. But I'm placing Timothy Dalton's Bond from The Living Daylights and License to Kill into License to Thrill. I think he is a great, serious Bond, and of course, he is one of the more emotionally depth Bonds at the same time. It's also helped by the fact that his two films to me are just perfect. One is the revenge thriller story that Bond never really gets to have, and I'm glad he did get one of them. And the other one is a classic traditional spy film that is just elevated and brought to a certain level that other Bond films I don't think are. When shifting from Moore to Pierce, he's that perfect little middleman that I think kind of helps with that national trajectory of making him more serious, more intense, getting him in on the action, which Dalton does great. A lot of this he actually did get in on himself, and I love that. He still has a bit of the charm, the charisma, but it's just more toned down. The campiness isn't here anymore, which I think is a little missing. I like a more well rounded Bond like Pierce, but for the most part, he does great. But like I said in my reviews, I love that he's able to just give a certain look or a certain moment, and you actually feel like there's something going on. I also like that he's actually just really nice. In a lot of these movies that he's in, for the most part, he is just a really good guy who's trying to help everyone. That is it. That is my ranking of all of these Bond actors. I don't know if any of you agree with me. Please let me know if you do or you don't. Maybe I did something wrong with Connery, but hey, for the most part, I don't really see anything to move around. I do like that as the films go on, my critique and my understanding of Bond does go higher, which I greatly appreciate. And for me, that really is what happened. I didn't really understand the appeal or the strength of Bond and why people really liked him. But after watching all 28 of these movies, or, 27, 28, however you want to count it, I really grew to love this character. And I'm really glad that I sat down and I watched these films because some of them are just in that top tier level. And some of these performances I'll always have with me now that I've actually done this. So, yeah. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. I know this video was shorter than most, but I really enjoyed looking at these Bond actors and seeing which ones were different and unique and special. If you want to do the same, make sure to click that link in the description to go to the tier list, and feel free to share it with me in the comments or on any of my social medias. Feel free to share, like the video, comment. I love when y'all interact, and it really brings a soft spot to my heart. Just because Jamesuary is coming to an end doesn't mean that I'm going to slow down with the channel anytime soon. I got big plans for February and all the coming months for the rest of this year, so make sure to subscribe and ring that bell notification. Feel free to click right over there and check out more of the Jamesuary in that playlist, or if you want to see what YouTube recommends for my channel personally, click over at that video right above it. We're in the final stretch, tomorrow's the last day, and there would be no better ranking to do other than the films themselves. Gear up and gear out.